everyone, this is Dave Meyer with BiggerPockets. We are here in the BiggerPockets office and we are doing our first ever local market roundup. So what we're going to be discussing today is a little bit about the general real estate market. We're going to talk about Denver, Colorado, different neighborhoods, a couple of sort of macroeconomic trends, things that are going on that are going to affect how real estate investors think about this market in particular. This is the first time we are ever doing this. This is actually my first time on Facebook Live. You guys too?
Same.
First time? Okay, so please forgive us if this is terrible, but we definitely want to get some feedback from you guys, so post something in the comments. Let us know if this is something you like, what can be improved. We definitely want to hear from you all about what is good. I hear see Zach laughing already, so they're probably making fun of us. All right, so we're going to get started by introducing ourselves. Again, I'm Dave Meyer. I work at BiggerPockets.
And I'm Bill Schaefer. I'm a buy and hold real estate investor here in Denver. I got my first rent check about 15 years ago. And right now I'm full-time. I do investing, buy and hold. I do fix and flip, wholesale, and wholesale.
Awesome. Right on.
And I'm Bill Knapp. I'm a residential realtor with Madison & Company. Also involved in real estate investing, working on my acquiring my first flip, and been helping investors with flips and rentals for a little over 3.5 years now.
I'm Andrew Keel. I'm also residential real estate with the Swan Group. I got into real estate about 3 years ago. Prior to that, I was in property management, but been selling homes, specializing in the Denver area and a couple miles outside of downtown Denver.
I'm Anson Young, and I am a fix and flip investor and a wholesaler, and I'm also licensed. And I've been doing it for about 10 years now in both. I started 2 years in Phoenix, and then the rest of the time here in Denver. Denver and a lot of the suburbs, so not just central. So.
Hi, my name is Andrew Rada. I'm a real estate investor. Don't ever plan on owning any rentals ever. I've been doing this for about 3-4 years, 1.5 years full time, and I do large scale renovations or new builds in particular.
Nice. Right on, awesome. So as you guys can see, we have a really good mix of people here. Definitely, if you want, you guys, I assume all BiggerPockets members if you're here.
Pro
Sweet. So hit these guys up if you on BiggerPockets if you have any questions following this. But let's start on the most macro level. I mean, there's a lot of things in the news right now about interest rates, the economy in general, where this is going. What are you guys feeling about the general state of the real estate market? Bullish? What are you thinking? I know, Bill, you were saying before you had some thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, all real estate is local. I just don't listen to what the prices are doing in San Francisco or Phoenix or wherever. It matters to me and what's happening in Denver. I mean, certainly there's macro trends. You know, I think interest rates are going to be going up. I think that's not really news. And if you think otherwise, you got a lot of people voting against you. The other thing that's happening is our national debt. I think we've got a huge debt, and that's going to somehow come to reckon. I don't have a crystal ball to know how, but it's going to impact us in a significant way. How? It remains to be seen.
All right.
I would reiterate what Bill just said. I think interest rates are going to start climbing. You know, historically, we're still going to be in a comfortable 4%. I would hope it wouldn't go over 4% by the end of this year, but with the meeting of the Feds on the 14th and 15th of this month, I think you'll hear Yellen come out and say that she's going to raise rates, especially after getting good job numbers. So, you know, will it be a little harder for the first-time home buyers to get in and kind of start making their mark and building equity in those homes? Maybe, but I think overall, I'm pretty bullish, I think, in terms of single-family homes go, at least in the country.
Right, so do you guys think that given the likely rise in interest rates that there's going to be a rush this spring and summer for people to lock in mortgages and we'll see a pretty busy activity in the Denver area, at least in the next several months?
I've seen some of that. Just some buyers who were kind of on the fence, and then they, you know, with the election and all this crazy stuff happening, they're kind of like, okay, well, if interest rates are going to go up, I need to basically get off the fence now. And whether they're deciding to buy or not, I think is influenced by that for sure. So, at least the smart ones, I don't know.
I've seen it there, and I've seen it on the sell side also. I've seen people that have they're living in one property and they have a rental, and they're deciding to capitalize on the market right now. So they're selling while the spring market is really hot. They don't have to buy, so they just go into another property, and they're really loving the rewards.
Nice. Are you guys seeing the inventory of homes start to creep up at this point?
Right now, I'm actually seeing the opposite. I think there's a real strangle on the inventory at the 300 to 400 price range. And to really kind of get into a home close to Denver, you're looking at that, and there's just not much on the market. And I think we're actually at historical lows for inventory right now, going into spring, but also into the summer months. I'm not seeing a whole lot of chatter about that inventory changing.
All right.
I just pulled some data on that before yesterday. I like to update my spreadsheet every couple months, and this gave me a good reason to update it. So like I track both like just the Denver general market and then kind of my price point, the higher plus $1 million.
Every million?
Louder.
Talk louder.
Let me get some beers out here.
It looked like the regular market, not a big change on days on market. Like on average in the last 6 months, there's a lot of fluctuation, but on average, but the higher dollar price points are starting to increase a decent amount on days on market. Not like alarming, but definitely noticeable.
What about inventory levels?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know the French finger.
Right.
To me, they're the same thing, so I don't know.
Sure. Well, and I did see like it was like fluctuating, and then I got a report just today that said that it was like strongly trending downward again. So, I mean,
It's tough to tell, yeah.
So
it is, I mean, yeah,
the
it's like-
difference between days on market is if you sell 10,000 homes and you have 5,000 for sale, that says like 15 days on market. Oops. But the inventory would be, well, there's 5,000 homes for sale at any given time.
Yep.
So you're moving a lot in a very short amount of time, and that's what we have here, is a very limited supply. And the point is, you cannot build a house in Denver for less than the median price.
Right.
And so there's no inventory being created, and yet that's where everybody that's getting off the fence is gonna be looking.
Right.
So it's gonna be a very challenging spring for anybody that's looking to buy.
Well, that's a great segue. So let's talk a little bit about Denver in general and what you guys are all thinking for the upcoming year. From like a development and flipping standpoint, what are you guys looking for? What are you excited about? What neighborhoods are you looking at?
Well, with tight inventory, it kind of comes with, for me anyways, it's, take the deals where you can find them, because pretty much everywhere from the mountains to, the plains, you can sell a deal. You can sell a deal, in Lakewood or Aurora or, Thornton down to the Springs. As long as you have a deal, I don't really worry about neighborhoods too much specifically. Not like I only work in this area. It's pretty much wherever I can find a deal, I know that the exit's gonna be great because I'm only in for 2 or 3 months. Unlike, a developer who has 6+ month. They need a little bit more of a crystal ball to kind of say, okay, in a year from now, what's gonna happen? Whereas for me, the market's gonna have to do something really crazy to flip on me in 2 months.
Right.
And so I feel confident right now, through the end of the year, that I can buy almost anywhere as long as it's a deal. I'm not counting on the appreciation. I try to be conservative with my ARV. And as long as I do those things and I'm actually buying deals, I feel like I can get out with no problem. So.
Right.
Yeah, and on the longer term development stuff where, I'm at minimum 12, hopefully maximum 18 months. I don't really take into account neighborhoods, I guess. I just look still for a deal. And I'm not smart enough to forecast whether or not Cherry Creek North or East Wash Park or Hilltop or, Park Hill is going to appreciate more. It's not, I don't know. That sounds like a full scheme to me. So.
Interesting.
On the buy side, so when I work with either myself or my clients, specifically the flippers, we're trying to find something in the range that if we can find something at 250,000 to 350,000, we're trying to do it either through wholesalers, off market. Every once in a while we'll see them on the MLS, but that's where the demand is right now. So we have less than a month inventory throughout the entire Denver metro. So if one of those gets acquired, and they can put a little bit of money and time into it, the average flip's not going to be super cheap, but we're seeing those turn around in about 3 months, 6 months on the long side. They'll sell just like that as long as they're in good shape. Location's decent and the condition really, but we've had really good success with the investors that we're working with.
Bill, yeah, I mean, I actually meant to bring this in, but I get your direct mail letters to buy my multifamily.
I was gonna comment on that.
Take them off your list.
Yeah, I was going to bring it in to show that.
So, I mean, like I do direct mail, and one of the things that I've seen that is kind of, I guess, a lid on the enthusiasm is the larger parcels of land that require, 8, 12, 14, 16 units to be built on it. There's, the appetite for that is significantly diminished. I have a friend that does land deals for apartment buildings, and he said 2 or 3 years ago, every site, A, B, or C, was selling. Now the only sites going under contract are the A quality, the best location, the location between downtown and Cherry Creek, or the location, right next to the light rail. If you're off the beaten path, your land isn't moving. And he deals with, kind of off market, but large institutional buyers. But, at the same time, there's, that's on the apartment end. On the end, and the kind of the mid-range development end where people are selling expensive row houses up by Sloan's Lake. But then there's a project there, a condominium project, they're looking at $700 a square foot for the units that they're selling. They're gonna, it's a quality location, but they're building for sale. And that's one thing that's unique in the Denver market is the lack of condominiums, because
Big lack of condominiums.
yeah, you can't build it. There's no builder's risk insurance for it.
Right, a lot of liability with that.
And so if they change the law, then we could see the supply just change overnight.
Right.
Weren't they drafting something up to remove some of that liability for condominium builders?
Yeah, it was like a partial stopgap. There was something about increasing the insurance or something, but it wasn't actually decreasing the statute of limitations.
Right.
It's still going to be 10 years.
Okay.
But at least they're starting to think about it, because I do think that's a big problem.
It's been on the agenda every session.
Always, sure. So, well, near and dear to my heart, and you've obviously helped me with a few of these, but what about the multifamily market? I mean, I feel like I've been looking for years and deals are just pretty tough to find.
Yeah, it's definitely thinning out a little bit. I still do have, I'm again pretty bullish on the multi-units up to a quadplex. I think you're seeing the landscape of Denver kind of changing. Back to what Bill said, those A properties that could do the apartment buildings that were selling 3 years ago, well, those are being completed now. It's the running joke, the new state bird of Colorado is the crane. Because there's just cranes all over the skyline.
Yeah, it's weird.
And so when you see all these apartments going in, a lot of new doors, a lot of new bedrooms, we need that for the expansion of Denver for sure. But I think there's still something to be said about the smaller units that just have the party wall division. You still get your own backyard. That kind of relates more to the culture of Denver. And I think other people are starting to see that. Other investors are starting to realize that. And that's why you're not seeing as many, duplex, quadplexes, triplexes, things like that on the market. That also goes to say, I think single-family home rentals will do really good in the future. There's just not going to be as many single-family homes for rent out there. So if you want to park your money somewhere, I would like to see it parked there. Duplexes a little smaller than the big builds, these massive builds at 700 square feet or $700 a square foot.
For sure. All right, so we've talked a bit about Denver in general, but one of the main questions we get here at BiggerPockets all the time is, how do you enter a market that is this hot right now, especially if you're new? Do any of you have any advice for people who are looking to get in the game?
Planning. So just because I do work with a lot of first-time home buyers, and not necessarily investors, but I guess it would kind of resonate with first-time investors as well, is you got to start filing your taxes. If you're ever going to borrow money from a conventional lender, you just have to be able to prove what you've made in the past. And then, given the time,
Are you saying people don't file their taxes?
you have no idea. People that
All right, let me
are
write that down.
people that so maybe I should go in. I didn't want to really dissect that kind of aspect of it, but I will. People that don't have the conventional W-2 form job, they have a lot of write-offs. So they actually will bring their income down as far as they can not to have to pay the taxes. And that will hurt you in the long run when it comes to qualifying for a loan at a lower APR. But yeah, people don't file taxes all the time.
I think the IRS is watching our Facebook
Right.
Live video right now. So
They're losing some funding.
Well, I mean, I've been in that situation when I first started out and I was wholesaling, and literally you look at it and you go, okay, I can make it look on paper like I make $0, and that's great until you go try to buy something.
Right.
You try to go buy a car or a house, and then you go, like a partner and I joked, we're just like, we know we make money, but we, on paper we're basically broke, and then banks look at you and you're broke, and you go, well, okay, I'm doing this wrong. So,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, going back to how an investor would start out, I see a lot of people who are trying to house hack, where they're buying a house to rent out rooms to offset their mortgage, and then can kind of build from there. So if I had a time machine, that would be probably my first purchase would be buy the biggest duplex or triplex or quadplex that I can with an FHA loan, rent out the other units and live in one for at least a year, and then kind of decide from there where to go.
Right.
And I don't know if you got your start kind of that
I
way.
did, yeah.
Yeah, and Scott Trench as well. Kind of went that approach where if you're single and you're even if you have a girlfriend but you don't have wife, kids, dogs, school district, all that stuff to worry about, go buy something where you can at least capitalize on the other rooms or the other space in that.
Supplemental income.
Yeah, it's going to be probably one of the easiest ways to get in, get your foot in the game on the investment side. If you're looking to, go from zero to wholesaling or zero to fix and flip or zero to development, you're going to have a pretty big learning curve and obviously a big downside as well. I mean,
I love that idea. I mean, for me at least, I think it's also a great way to learn property management. Like if you're living on site, you also get annoyed by your tenants a lot, as I can tell a whole lot of stories about. But you do learn a lot, just like being there all the time, knowing what's going on in the property. It's like less risk when you're fixing your own apartment. Like if you have to live without a sink or a shower for a day or two, you can live with it instead of having it. So I think it's great. Does anyone have any other advice for newbies?
Yeah, I had one other thing I wanted to kind of emphasize. And again, I know we have a lot of viewers that aren't in the state of Colorado, but in the state, there is a couple different really good down payment assistance programs. Chaff is one of them. They're willing to give you up to 4% for your down payment. So that kind of gets you in the door, because in where we're living, you're going to pay a lot for rent. So if you don't have enough money for a down payment and that's what's really holding you up, look into some of those assistant programs that, you'll get hit a little bit more on your APR or however they want to work it in, but if you don't have the money, you're not even going to be able to play. So worry about maybe refinancing down the road if interest rates stay where they are, or maybe raise a little bit. But yeah, leverage what is going to be given to you for free.
Awesome. That's great advice.
I don't think we're going to see cheaper interest rates. I mean, they've already started going up. So, I would.
Well, what was that called one more time? Wait,
Chaffa.
Chaffa.
Chaffa?
How do you spell that?
CHAFA.
Nailed it.
Sure. Team effort here.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
They just yesterday actually bumped it up from they were willing to give you 3% down, and then you'd have to bring 0.5 if you're doing an FHA. Yesterday they bumped that up to 4%, and there's still some restrictions. You do have to have some skin in the game, but it could be as low as $1,000. So, after your closing costs and everything, again, save that tax return, use that for your closing costs, and use Chaffa for your down payment, and start building equity. And you got to kind of be inventive on how you're going to fund it, but.
In our environment right now, and it's probably the same in other places, I just referred some business out to Georgia, and I hear their market's pretty busy as well. It's not always the highest offer that wins. You have to have a balanced offer So if you're going in with an FHA mortgage and you're trying to win a bidding war, don't go in at $30,000 over list price, because you don't have any money in the bank, you can't back it up. If anything goes wrong, you're probably not going to get selected. Also, be patient as best you can. Put in a backup offer. It costs you nothing. You can continue to shop. If you don't win the bid and the first contract falls out, we're seeing 30% of contracts fall out in Denver. You have a chance of getting in without getting into another bid war. You like the home because you made an offer. It's a great avenue.
Awesome. Great advice. So we've been talking a lot about rentals, and I want to go back to what you said, which was you never plan on owning a rental. I'm curious why you said that.
So I never want to own a rental because I'm not interested in ever fixing a toilet or anything like that.
So more lifestyle, not like financial reasons.
Yeah, it just doesn't appeal to me at all, and so I'd be a crappy landlord and probably be a slumlord. I just don't think that's the right idea. So
All right. Fair enough.
do stuff you're interested in.
Definitely, absolutely, yeah. If you're going to burn out at something, there's no reason to get into it. Definitely.
So I think another thing to help first-time buyers is to really focus on a particular, to be focused with it. I think that people get, the shiny object syndrome, like, well, we're gonna buy a duplex, and then they go look at a condo, and then, it just all over the board with their plan. If they develop a plan and stick with that plan and make, you gotta do a check on it and make sure it's a reasonable plan. But there's not a lot of fourplexes for sale in Denver.
Right.
And they don't come up often. So if you're trying to take that approach, you gotta know what you're up against. It might take you a year, and you're running a significant risk on the interest rate end. So maybe it's better just to get a big house, or, you just kind of have to work all that out, but take your plan and work the plan.
Right on. Okay, so I'm just going to switch gears a little bit here and talk a bit about sort of like the macro trends that are going on in Denver. Not necessarily economic, but what the city is doing, specifically about the airport and some of the transportation, the light rail, and I-70. So we have a lot of big infrastructure projects coming through Denver. I just want to see what you guys think about how this is going to affect. So I think the biggest and the most controversial is this I-70 expansion. For those of you who don't know, there is a plan out there to bury part of the interstate that goes through Denver and build sort of a park green space over on top. There's pending litigation against it. People are on both sides. Do you guys think this is good, bad? You don't care? Does anybody have any strong opinions on this one?
I think it's going to be great for those neighborhoods who no longer have, this giant bridge next to them.
Yeah, Swansea.
Swansea, Elysia, and I think Globeville is all.
Yeah.
And there was a time where nobody would touch those properties, back in 2009. Like, those were just,
Well, they're super fun site.
That is also true. But at the same time, back then you could buy, a single family house, within Denver's, Denver limits for, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. Now obviously it's more than that, but if you, just looking at the plan, aside from the controversy, I mean, it's going to make those neighborhoods go from, we're just that kind of crap that's right next to the freeway to, now we at least have, something to look at besides the highway. And if it's a park, I could see some revitalization right there as a benefit to those neighborhoods. I mean, nobody was talking about Globeville 2 years ago.
No.
Now, people are kind of like, well, Rhino's kind of played out. Where else do I go?
Right.
And Globeville's right there, And so it's another one of those, I see it as a positive benefit, but I'm not smart enough to know any different. So.
Right on. What about the light rail? I mean, I just bought a house on the new A line. I hear it every night when I'm going to sleep, but I think it's going to be good for the neighborhood. Do you think the light rail and the general expansion is going to bring some of the suburbs around Denver into play a bit more?
I mean, I don't know how much more to play there can be.
You think they're already in
Yeah, it's
play?
like Anson said earlier. There's no place that's the stepchild. You basically just shop in your price point and nobody really cares. Certainly the area impacts the price, but that's in some regard due to history. And that does enter into the perception, but I don't, you know, if you can afford this, you buy in the one that you're most charged about that's in that price point. It's not, I don't know. In the past, like when the Santa Fe light rail, that was the first line that was built. A friend of mine told me that when that opened, they saw a 20% increase in prices the first year.
Wow.
We're opening like 5 lines.
So you think it's diluted because
I
of
think
that?
it's diluted. And there's demand. There's going to be demand. I mean, heck, they're building all kinds of multi-unit properties around the station. So that's a real thing that will play out. How much remains to be seen. Maybe they'll get it open one of these days.
Well, I mean, I think also, you know, zoom out a little bit from where the stops are and look at just the whole entire infrastructure and the grid. I think that's really important for a growing city. So, you know, I do love LA, but I do think they struggle with a lot of their public transit. And I think it has to do with how large they are and how spread out they are. And I think we're kind of starting to see a trend where all these suburbs are becoming very popular. People are willing to live farther and farther away. Well, that congests more of the highway road work, or the highways like 25, 70. So just to have a good public transit system in place just makes Denver more valuable in the eyes of everyone living here and people that want to move here, which in return can help out property value all over the place, not necessarily right next to the station.
Right. All right, so what about, I mean, it sounds stupid just even saying it, but what about the aero travel? Like, I know I hate the name.
Sweet word.
It's really dumb. It sounds very futuristic.
Right.
I don't even know. But what it is basically they're planning to make a ton of development around Denver International Airport. They built the airline the train that goes from downtown. They just put a hotel in, and now they're doing all sorts of zoning changes. Personally, like, I can't really see this like becoming a thing, like intentionally living by the airport. Do any of you think this is going to be a big thing?
It's not a residential play. It's a commercial play. It's to make Denver like a port city of Los Angeles, where it's got it has an air. The thinking is, if you will, that in the future, air travel will move a lot more goods and services than it does now. And so because we have all this vast, cheap land around our airport, it's a very unique setup. You can't make LAX any bigger without spending bajillions of dollars. So in Denver, we can put a huge corporate freight connection. We have they have trains that can take goods there and then fly them to anywhere in the world. We can bring goods from anywhere in the world to there and then train them or truck them or whatever to wherever. That's the big concept of it. The impact to people here is it will bring more jobs, more goods and services. It'll allow people to bring their international headquarters to Denver as opposed to having to put it on a seaport.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, I think there's a long way for it to go before we actually see it. And a reason I think it's going to have a problem taking off or getting legs right now is there's so much very expensive development that's been funded by the city and through different federal organizations and grants. I mean, the I-70, that's going to be very expensive. You have the new Western Stock Show that's going to be going in, that's very expensive. And then just to expand our airport large enough to warrant it as like a port city, like you said, I mean, you're looking at $1 billion when we're already dropping a lot of money, and that number I kind of just pulled out of the air. But what it does have going for it is the open land. I mean, there's just tons of just useless land out there not being used at all. But also with the new World Trade Center headquarters being here, we're already going to have a global eye on us. I mean, the World Trade Center that's being built, that is going to be used as an international hub for, not only tourists, but for business. And so I think it is a good time to start talking about it, but I think it is kind of a ways off until we kind of get everything else dialed in on what's going on in the city.
I know.
But I'm interested.
So there's huge political hurdles to be crossed with it. I mean, the whole Aurora-Denver fight.
Oh, yeah.
There's Denver. Actually, it takes an act of the state legislature to change the boundaries of Denver. They cut a big deal to do DIA to begin with because it's in the city and county of Denver. So now they have to go back to Aurora and Adams County and all the, you know, it's huge. So there's got a lot to be, it's not, I mean, it's not tomorrow or next week.
But it is interesting how some of those communities that are on the residential side that are closest to the airport have been positively impacted.
But they're also,
But
they're also in opposition to it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, at the same
Yeah,
time,
I know.
would you want more, air traffic over you? But wasn't Montbello just named like the #1, like, subdivision in America for growth in like
Really?
3 years?
Really?
Yeah, I thought I brought it with me, but in 3 years, they saw like over 20% appreciation over there. And I think because, well, obviously they got hit hard by foreclosures, but
You started the bottom.
well, yeah. But now there's actually less stigma. I mean, I've placed pilots and flight attendants over there on the residential side
nice.
who go, yeah, Green Valley Ranch used to be kind of a bad word to say around Denver, but its proximity to the airport plus affordability, those two things line straight up, and there's people moving in there all the time now, and you can see the growth in those two neighborhoods, which you would think like, oh, by the airport, but it's still pretty far away from the airport.
Well, Green Valley Ranch was situated, it's not impacted as much by the flights.
Right.
Where the rub comes is when you get out into Adams County, out into like North Aurora.
Right.
They get a lot of the noise from the jets, and that's where the corporate expansion, the freight kind of places would be, and it becomes dollars. If that's in Denver, then they get the money. If it's in Aurora, they get the money.
Right,
And
yeah.
that all has to be figured out. And we're talking about the dropping of 70 below grade. That's like 7-8 years out. So Andrew's point about it being, out in the future, we're, 10 plus years, probably 15 plus before that even comes up.
But you gotta get the conversation going.
Yeah, obviously.
All right, let's take a snap over to Facebook and get some questions going from some of the people watching.
So we got a question from Michael Baird, who wants to know what you guys think about the area around Anschutz Medical Campus in Aurora.
All right, so I'll just repeat the question here so everyone can hear. We had a Facebook, Bill?
Michael Baird.
Michael Baird there's so many Bills around here. Asking what you guys think about the area around Anschutz Medical Campus.
I mean, I've grown up in Aurora my whole life. My dad took me up to like Colfax and Peoria a lot to go to pawn shops and like
great.
Aurora stuff, whatever you do. Aurora stuff. And it's one of those things where Aurora was the redheaded stepchild of Denver. But watching Anschutz go in, and then my mother-in-law worked at CU Medical up there,
Children's
and,
Hospital.
Yeah, the Children's Hospital, the VA hospital, for better or worse. But and now light rail. I mean, you can see like Aurora North for investors was even a bad word, or kind of slumlord type places. But now you can see the positive impact of all that new commercial, all the entire complex is. I mean, I sold a flip at about maybe half mile from there, and I definitely saw the benefits of the area. I mean, it's huge. I mean, for that area, it was like nothing going on.
Right,
and
yeah.
all of a sudden, now it's like this bright spot.
It's
got its own light rail stop and everything else. So.
Well, I think on paper it looks great. Practically, I have some experience there that isn't. My investing strategy is I go and buy where my tenants move, because my tenants are young professionals. And so I thought, I saw that going in there, and I bought a place over there, and nobody that works there will rent my property, and it's nice. It's fixed up just like the other properties that I own over on this side of town. I have people renting over here that drive there to work. When they buy, they won't buy there, they go buy in Barnum. So I don't understand why, and I agree with everything that Anson says. It looks like it ought to be great. In the I don't know, 6 or 8 tenants I've had in 10 years in that property. One of them was related to Fitzsimmons.
Awesome. So do you think that's just because of the low-end housing stock that's there right now? There's just no desirability? I mean,
Well, my property is pretty desirable.
well, not yours. That's
No, but I mean, no, but
In
it's
general.
the neighborhood. It has a stigma to it.
Sure.
Yeah, and
Yep,
you know, there's some great zoning. I mean, they're within 2 blocks east or 3 blocks east. There's very dense zoning, and there's a bunch of crappy apartment buildings that are selling dirt cheap. I don't know why somebody doesn't build something, but the only place they're building is on vacant land south of Colfax.
Yeah.
So there's nothing, I mean, I don't know, they could build those townhouses like they're doing at Sloan's Lake out there at half the price, but nobody's doing it because it won't sell.
I actually had a good experience there. Well, just
Let's do it.
it can get micro local. So I completely agree with you also. But there are complexes there that are actually doing quite well. A complex that I know specific. So I had a young family move into Cherry Grove 2, which is right off the light rail station, just across the way from the VA hospital. They bought 2014. I think we purchased at 130, and they just sold last year in the fall at 260.
Nice.
So I mean, and they're loving it. And they use that, and they upgraded. They bought totally different location. Also.
So how much, so what was their appreciation in
In 2 years.
2 years? They doubled their money.
Roughly. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
so
they're-
Marbella would have been about the same.
They're I've actually got a stat: 12.6% year over year for Marbella.
Well,
from
I
Mount
think no
Bella.
one's complaining about that. All right, sweet. So let's get back to Facebook. Just a reminder to please share, like, comment, and join us in the conversation right now. Zach, do you have some other questions for these guys?
Yeah, we do. So, from Jacob Milson, he says, I'm an appraiser looking to relocate from a good market to Denver. In your opinion, do you think the market will still be hot for at least this year? Love the website.
Awesome. Great. Well, we're happy you love the website. The question is if appraiser looking to move from a different hot market to Denver, do they think it's going to still be hot? I can tell you from personal experience, there's a need for appraisers in this city. It's possible to get an appraisal. But take it away, guys. You think the rest of the year is going to be hot?
Yes, I think we're going to see inventory starting to rise in the summertime. As I was explaining earlier, I think right now we're at a really low point. But if you're an appraiser, move here. We need you. I mean,
Desperately.
hot or not, it doesn't matter. A lot of the appraisers right now are getting to the age of retirement, and they are not mentoring people to bring them into the field. So there are not many younger appraisers. And I was actually just talking to a lender of mine about this issue. I mean, you guys know when it was really hot out there, how long did it take you to get an appraisal?
3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's 4 weeks.
I mean, you know, and if you're in 4 weeks, and if you're writing a standard 30 to 35 day contract, that's out the window now.
Well, they need to start paying them. I mean, there were plenty of appraisers before the last bust, and they were part of the problem, but then they passed the regulation that changed their compensation.
The AMCs,
Yeah, and so they can't make a living at it. The only people that make a living are the ones that are already established. You know, there's no young people that instead of being an agent, they decide to be an appraiser.
Right.
There's no money in it. So if they fix that, that would go a long ways.
Guess you have to invest as well.
Right. I think going back to that, I mean, at least for me, I think that this year, it's going to look just like last year. And then 2018, people smarter than me say that, it's going to keep going. So
We'll see you in a year right here. We'll ask
hold the feet to the fire. if you like.
So
So-
I agree.
You said this last
If you're buying a single family home, I agree 100%. There's just nothing there.
Single family, I think is where it's at.
Yeah, unless they change the law on construction defects to where they will convert some of the apartments that are being built to condos just directly, then that's going to continue as well.
So I got a question for Andrew specifically. So
Andrew?
this is
There's 2 Andrews.
the developer Andrew. So this is a general real estate question. In Nashville, the 400K plus homes are sitting on the market longer. For the developer that builds 1 million plus, what is your hedge against a change in the market or sustained long-term passive cash flow?
Yeah, so two kind of questions in there that I saw were, one, yeah, there are more days on market for higher end properties. It's one of the risks. We're selling a $500,000 duplex right now, and thing was awesome. It went up, both properties went under contract in 2 days.
Wow.
I just sold a property last summer at 1.7, and it was 2 weeks on the market, and I was freaking out a little bit. We're gonna list like a $2.3 million one, hopefully in about 4 months or so, and I'm a little nervous about it. So yeah, days on market, it's just a fact that they're higher. Hopefully it sells though. So yeah, that's definitely a risk. In terms of like what happens 12 months from now, I'm a pessimist by nature, so that's another reason why I don't own a rental.
What can go wrong, will go wrong.
Yep. The toilet will clog, the market will crash, something will go wrong. But one of the things, I always look for a certain margin. My deal is 20%. I look for a 20% margin in all my deals, just to kind of hedge my bets a little bit. So even if the market goes down 20%, I'm still okay. Another thing that I've been toying with, two things I've been toying with is starting to get non-recourse loans, which I don't have to personally guarantee. I haven't found a affordable solution to that yet, so I think I'm going to pass on that, and I've been recently starting to think about doing some put options on like a home builder's index, and I've been playing with a couple options on there, but basically buying options that are so out of the money that they basically are cheap insurance, and kind of playing your odds that way. So, I don't know.
Great. And then we got one or two more here. Julie Verratti, she said, we need more women investors on the podcast and webinars. Julie, happy International Women's Day. Quick little hands there.
Yeah.
We
Not a lot of diversity on this panel right now.
We completely agree. We're working on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point, Julie. We're definitely working on that. And you said we'll take one last question?
Yeah. And then this one is from a local guy that I think we all know, Dan Mackin. He says, what are the possible concerns with the flood plan changes for Globeville?
Perfect. So the question is, what are the possible concerns with the flood plan changes for Globeville? Be nice, guys. I bought a house right there, so I live about 30 yards from where they're going to put this whole thing in, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think.
Yeah, 39th Greenbelt.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you guys are familiar, all of this?
Oh,
All right, so basically what's going on is, I think 4 or 5 years ago, there was a 100-year storm. Coal, the whole north area of Denver was underwater. It was not crazy, but pretty deep water in some areas. And basically the city is trying to close down 39th Street, turn it into an open channel similar to Harvard Gulch, if you know that. And they're adding a retention facility in City Park Golf Course, which is pretty controversial. And then they're going to put an outflow in Globeville as well. And so the city is trying to minimize the amount of eminent domain, but a couple of houses are going to be selected. So the question is if there's any negative. Personally, I think it's going to be positive. I think they're adding a bike path that's going to connect sort of the Park Hill area to Rhino. I'm looking at this as a positive, but does anyone have any other concerns?
I mean, whenever you're going into something where eminent domain could be an issue, I think you are going to get a little bit of, kickback, and I get it, because eminent domain is kind of a tricky subject because you're not really getting current market value. I guess you kind of are, but you're not getting that inflation that you're seeing right now. But overall, if that's not going to affect you directly, but you still live in the area, I think it'll be great for the community. It adds, I researched the hell out of it.
Yeah, you better like this deal because you were the agent
Yeah.
when I bought that.
So I met with a lot of the architects on the design plans and figuring out what it'll actually look like because I was representing Dave. And it will add 12 acres of park, along 39th Street, which if you tie that in with the stock show going in right there, the new stock show, and then if 70 does go underground and that's a new beltway for park as well, you're gonna have two pretty nice parks with bike paths, all with drainage. I mean, that's the main reason for it. But it'll really help out the community as far as aesthetic appeal goes.
Yeah.
So I like to see public parks. I'm a big fan of them, and Denver's done a great job at maintaining them and developing them. So I think you're going to see. That's why I really like Cole and Clayton, but also part of Swansea I'm a big fan of. So just south of the railway, south of 70.
Yeah.
So you got 70, then you have the railway, and then about a block south of that, I don't think the expansion of 70 will affect it. And it's not big. I mean, it's only about 5 blocks, but you're going to have a lot more city parks, more public transit will be there, and it'll kind of flow right into the Rhino and the Rhino Revival and everything's going on a little farther west of that. And again, it's all surrounded by single-family homes, which I think are going to do great.
Right on. We just got to chase the Purina factory out of town. And all of North Denver is going to be hot.
My dog loves that.
All right. Thank you guys so much. This has been awesome. Please remember to share, comment, like this. Before we go, please go around and let people know, remind them who you are and where they can reach you.
I'm Bill Schaefer. I go by Bill S on BiggerPockets. That's the best way to get a hold of me.
I'm Bill Knapp with Madison and Company. Best way to get a hold of me is just phone and email, 303-877-0431 and williamgknapp@gmail.com.
Andrew Keel at Swan Realty Group. By phone is definitely the best way. My phone number is 720-412-0232. Give me a call.
I'm Anson Young, and I am Anson Young on the BiggerPockets, and that's probably the best way to reach me as well.
My name's Andrew Rada again, and 720-447-2298.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate it. This was awesome. Again, this is our first time trying something like this, so please leave comments. Let us know what you think. If you really like it, what we can do next time. If you want one of these in your area, let us know. Thanks a lot, and come join us on BiggerPockets.com.